Hi, Rachel.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I'm just dying to get to talk about an episode of The Expanse. I'm on the edge of my seat because I feel, I don't know why, like we've started a new story, new book, perhaps? I don't know. Just
It feels
something
like this
tingles.
arc is just beginning.
Yeah, there's a
But
whole...
it's following through on what was set up before.
Oh, of course, and you can definitely tell that by some amazing follow-through on some overarching stories like the Martian Marines. But hey, before we get all hot and bothered and into the story, what's happening here, Rachel? What do we do on Yum Yum Podcast?
Well, we talk about sci-fi on Yum Yum Podcast, and this edition is centered around The Expanse. But why Yum Yum? Because, well, it's Yum Yum because you hate me. Tell us about this episode of The Expanse. We're in season 2. We're a little bit in.
We are 6 episodes in to season 2 of The Expanse. We're going through it for the first ever time. We're like virgins to this series. And everything is a fresh new pleasure threshold to breach. And today we are up to Paradigm Shift, which has a rather bizarre, and I mean this sincerely, bizarre IMDb description, because we read the IMDb descriptions for The Expanse because they have some fun things to them. But season 2, Rachel, please attest to this. Season 2 has been pretty straightforward.
Yes, I attest.
They hit you straight in the jugular with blunt force simplicity. So, Paradigm Shift, somebody said no. We're not doing that anymore. We're going to go esoteric and weird. Earth is planning an expedition to the point of Eros impact. Christian conflicts with Sadavir about Jules Pierre Mao. Colonel Frederick Lucius Johnson improves his position in unexpected way. Not in a unexpected way, in unexpected way. This is the one that gets me. This is the last one. New battleground is opening.
Oh. Say what? Say what?
Ooh, new battleground is opening.
Why are there so many names shoved into that description? Like, yes, the word choice, what they choose to describe, yes. But, like, all of the full names.
Not all. Christian didn't get her full name. Yeah, they used her first name, which this series doesn't do as often as I do because I like calling her Chrissy. But Paradigm Shift is an episode that has a lot of moving pieces, and there was many moments to choose from that we found to be yum yum, something that made us lick our lips and say, that's a nice piece of tasty right there.
Shirtless Holden.
We got that's the correct answer.
That's an easy pick.
That is the correct answer. When this gets written down in the history books of our podcast, it will say Paradigm Shift. The yum yum moment was Shirtless Holden. Let's move past that into what we personally like to go through. Now, Rachel, you have your automatic Amos pick.
Yep.
And I do not have one for him, but he was pretty horny in this episode. He licked his finger and put it in Alex's ear.
Yeah, you gave him a wet willy.
He lives in a flop house next door.
Yeah.
In the brothel.
Uh-huh.
And that's normal for him because he grew up in a brothel. So good for him, or at least he grew up in that environment that we found out in the previous.
He's used to it.
Good for you, buddy.
Yeah.
But what's your pick?
Him saying,
Oh, I know what it is, but go on.
Yeah, we stopped and acknowledged it when we were watching the episode, so yeah, you know it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd do her if she'd let me.
Wouldn't we all? My yum yum thing, in all honesty, was Christian's outfit this episode was rather sexy. She had
this is not a date.
She had this what do you call it? She had like a rather low cut dress, but over her chest she had like this weird, I don't even know what this is, describe it, like this kind of plasticky jeweled broochy thing covering her chest, but it was coming from her waist up. I don't know what it is. I'm not a fashion expert, but stunning outfit all around. Look, if I can see Christian being a badass bitch giving a speech while wearing a stunning outfit, that gets me going, okay?
We both know how the world works. When the stakes are this high, many things are possible.
I knew that there had to be an aftermath to certain events like Miller's death, and that we had to eventually catch up with the Martian Marines because they've existed in the show. On. But what did you think of the episode overall?
I enjoyed it for the most part. I'm finding that I do not like the orientation stage of storytelling.
You don't like it when they're setting up all the little pieces.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, we're doing this here, we're doing that here, and wait. I'm like, I don't want to wait. I want things to be happening.
It's always hard, especially when things have just happened, and then the follow-up is, now watch us set a new board because we've started the second book now.
6.
Yeah, we're halfway through the season, basically, and it's saying, well, now watch us slowly put the game into motion. Okay. But you were a fan of the episode in spite of that?
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed being in the world, being with the characters. I'm intrigued as to what they're doing with certain things. Really loved Avasalara this episode. She always rocks, but she was a little bit more unfiltered.
She did get to swear,
yes.
which is always good. Needed from her. Now, I want to preface this by saying I do not care about the books right now. And what I mean by that is I'll be glad to read them, but what I'm saying is when I'm talking about this episode in particular, I can feel that this is the start of the second book. But as someone who has to discuss what I have watched, I have to just look at the episode on its own merits. I have to look at it on its own. I can't think too much about the relationship to this being an adaptation of a book I haven't read. I have to think about this as a piece of entertainment that I watched for 45 minutes. And now that all sounds ominous, but I liked this episode a lot. I had a great time. I really enjoyed the framing device. It gave us a bit of history. I liked all of these character beats, that it was a series of little stories that interconnected to one another.
Yeah, it was a vignette sort of episode.
As somebody who appreciates when the orientation of a grand arc is being put into motion, this did tickle my fancy. I thought they did it really well. They've got me intrigued about how some of the stuff is going to go, but there is some sloppiness here in the episode. Look, I'm talking about the Martian Marines. That's some Discovery level shit that they're doing right there. And I can't wait to crack that open and really poke it with a stick. But
can we leave them?
Can we leave them behind? I agree.
Can we just leave them like Gunny's still alive?
They don't give a shit about that story. Why should I? But what did you think of the framing device? This little recurring thing about the history of their ability to travel so fast.
I enjoyed it. I like that it was just an accident, as plenty of scientific discoveries are. And I like the way that they sort of use this structure as a break within the overall arc of the seasons. Like, we've had the one on the station where Fred Johnson spaced everybody.
Yeah, when they do the flashbacks, they do them once or twice a season to help build out the world and the characters that inhabit it.
And I think I like this version of it better, like when it's going to the past and giving you some lore.
And themes. It's touching upon a theme of the particular story that we're getting into today.
But I prefer that over we're getting these other characters that are just in the world. I'm thinking of the rock hoppers.
God.
I just don't feel like that added a whole lot other than reintroducing Diogo. How do you say that?
Yeah, Diogo.
Yeah, I did it right.
He was in this episode, so thank you for bringing him back. But I am in complete agreement with you. The story here is about, what was it, 127 years ago, 137 years ago?
37.
I thought it was like 100 years before, but this guy
over a century.
This guy from Mars, before it was its own place, when it was still attached to Earth and having to suckle from Earth and Earth taking everything from it, he stumbled across this new drive system. He was just hoping to increase fuel efficiency by 4%, but he has this rickety old ship and he turns off the voice commands.
They call it a yacht.
That was a great little touch.
Yeah.
And whoever this actor is did a really great job of giving you that young frontiersman vibe.
Yeah. Like, let's mess around and find out.
Innocent, and yet a go-getter. You can imagine him wearing the old-timey clothes with the hat, and he has the caravan or whatever.
It's a very familiar attitude, just in a different context.
And so he turns on this drive, he turns on his ship, and it just blasts forward. And since he's going so fast, he is just unable to move because of just the sheer inertia of it all, just the sheer momentum. He tries, but oh my god, the weight of it, his hand flies back, you hear it break by the sounds of things. He doesn't even have enough in him to react very strongly to the pain of that, because we see later he tries to reach for something and is slowly slicing his hand open, but he can't, it's like he can't feel it at that point because everything is just so intense that it's this really surreal thing. And I've often wondered about the Expanse of what makes it stand out from any other science fiction piece, any other science fiction show, other than it's just very slick in production. And it's the attention to detail when it comes to, I guess, hard science or trying to apply scientific accuracy to your story and not just fudging things because of dramatic convenience. And so you have a sequence like this in which we are watching in pretty vivid detail what would happen in a scenario like this, and that it does not work out for him.
Nope.
And he just keeps going. He just keeps going.
Well, he has no choice.
He has no choice, and we don't even see the ship run out and stop. It just off it goes until a little twinkle and it's just a star, and then we move on. But I really liked how this felt like a short film in its own way. You could put the scenes together and you would get a complete story out of it, rather than the Fred Johnson thing or the Rockhoppers thing, in which those were just inserted at random points to give you an idea of a story that has happened or will happen in the future. I would not be surprised
and it matters only in connection with the other things that are happening with our characters.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if this was the first chapter in the Expanse book or a short story where we just hear this tale, or we even get an internal monologue of this guy's struggles and then eventual death, and how it leads to this new grand age that we see our characters currently live in, and that it's both beautiful and horrifying what this scientist, this engineer, has given upon the universe. And what do you think about how it was touching upon that notion and theme about how technology is something that gives us a lot, but also it can be a curse in a way. But some technology, some steps forward when it comes to this, will change everything, the way that we know it all.
I really enjoyed the way that it tied into the themes and the way that it wasn't too heavy-handed with it. It just linked in. And there's a level of trust in the audience that they'll get it. Even if they don't think about it, they'll feel it.
It slots in and threads together with the sentiments shared by people in some of the other plot lines that are happening as well. But it makes us look at the proto-molecule in a very specific light. We had an evil, mad scientist try to tell us that this is this great technological leap forward and it's going to do this for us and it has all of these wonderful properties that we should explore because it will better us, and it fell on deaf ears, at least for us. Even if that guy is correct, it was from the point of view of a madman. Yeah. And someone who's an archetypical mad scientist type. And Miller shot him in the head, rightfully so. But here we get this told in a way that is far more palatable, and it isn't directly saying that this is what the proto-molecule is, but we have enough information about the proto-molecule to say, okay, so the proto-molecule is the next version of this, in which it's a piece of technology.
Or at least it could be.
Yes, it could be. And what would it lead to? This is a piece of technology that, if in our hands, could change the fate of humanity.
That's the wonderful and terrible thing about technology. It changes everything.
It hurts all the more that the Martian Marines are here to go against every positive statement I have about this episode. I think the Martian Marines, how they've been implemented in the show, and in this episode in particular, is shockingly terrible.
Oh,
awful.
God. It's
lazy.
So crammed in there.
It's an afterthought. It's a means to an end. They don't appear.
That needs to happen in this episode. Okay.
But they don't even do that. They do we're nearly out of time in the episode, throw them in. They don't even establish them earlier in the story. You're 80% through the episode, and then it's like, oh yeah, here are the Martian Marines. They're going to die a scene later. Care. Be invested. Have an opinion on it.
Did we or did we not predict that everybody was going to die except her?
Yeah. And it's not because we are just these magical people who can just predict these crazy... This is clear, obvious storytelling. And it's not even that the end is, disappointing because we predicted it. The journey was nothing.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I get the feeling that they're setting her up for later. They've introduced her at this point because it lines up with, like, the backstory. But I just don't give a fuck.
They had no clue what to do with her, but she had to be in this season because she's most likely integral to things going forward. But if you listen to our season 2 premiere episode, we really liked what they did with Bobby. But they've done nothing with her and these Marines since, other than be so clear that they were trying to flesh out these Marines a little bit so that there's some oomph to when they're taken away. And it's that type of writing that pisses me off, in which you can tell they put the bare minimum in, because you can't say that they didn't put any of it in.
No.
Someone listening right now can say, oh, why are you getting upset about this? Like, they did these things. It's like, yeah, you can point to the things that they did to lead to this, and you're correct. They made sure to make us know each and every one of these Marines and their quirks and their personalities and their dynamic to one another. Yeah, they did. In a very shallow level. And I'm sure that Bobby's going to be a great character that could lead to things, but it's so transparent what they were wanting to do here. And I'm just so annoyed, and please, Rachel, take it from me. I'm just so annoyed that they didn't even care about them in this episode.
No.
Not even in this episode, they didn't care about them.
Time for Rachel's analogy. For me, this is... They have all the ingredients but didn't follow the instructions. So all of the bits are there, but they just don't come together the way that they're meant to. So you're left annoyed, confused, and a little bit disgusted because it's like this shitty thing in the middle of this great feast. So it looks even worse.
It's such a disappointment that the ending of the episode is the Martian Marines getting slaughtered by these unknown forces. Draper's the lone survivor, and it is, oh, look, it's a weird blue alien guy. And why that is incredibly disappointing is I should be able to feel multiple things, but I only feel one major lingering thing of, oh, what's this blue guy? What's this about? You know what I should actually be having in the forefront of my mind? Oh no, what's Bobby gotten herself into? Should be something I think about. Should be something I'm concerned about. I don't give a shit about Bobby.
I didn't even think about that.
You didn't even, all you think about is, ooh, what's this weird gooey guy?
Oh, it's just like, of course she's alive.
But you should care
And
about...
now we're going to get her POV more. Yay.
But, okay, in season 1, when Miller and Holden got irradiated...
You get her instead of Miller now.
When Holden and Miller at the end of season 1 got irradiated and that was the end of the episode, you were obviously wanting to know, oh, what's happening here? What's this going to lead to? But you left thinking, oh no, what, are Miller and Holden going to be okay? What have they gotten themselves into? You have to have that for me to be more invested in this outside of just mystery. Oh, what's this mystery? Because that's what
Tension only works when you're invested, and we're not invested in the Marines.
They didn't. They gave us one episode to actually be invested in this character, and then they've spent most of the season not doing
undoing it.
Undoing it. Undoing it. It's such a shame because I can tell that this is a character I'm going to like, but they really fumbled the ball when introducing them. And I just want to get your opinion on this, and we'll move on because I don't have anything to say about the blue alien guy other than, oh, cool, aliens are finally here in the show. Also, he exploded at the end? That was weird. I assumed he exploded. I don't know.
I couldn't tell what happened.
It sounded gooey.
Really. I was just like, something happened.
But does the Expanse have an issue at the introduction of their characters? Because a good portion of our characters when we were in those...
Haddad Miller was awful. I'm not saying that I will never like this character. But I agree that maybe it is a problem. Because I didn't like anybody for a while.
Except for Christian, of course. We all loved her from the beginning.
Yeah.
But... do you see what I mean? I'm very curious.
We love ourselves a sassy lady.
If that's
sassy lady in power, yes.
If that's a problem within the writing, is they know what they want to do with them, but perhaps that initial setup isn't always.
They know where
strength.
they want to get, but they don't know how to start.
Yeah, it's been a recurring issue for us at least,
Yeah.
and damn it, I hate that. I really loathe that I'm saying this because when I think back to the season 2 premiere, they set her up so perfectly. I was salivating. I was so keen. And then they just flushed it down the drain. We'll see where she goes, but damn, is this a disappointment.
Well, we have beef with that storyline. But there's beef in another.
Ooh, where's the beef? I said it.
It isn't between Holden and Amos
Oh.
because Holden's fucking Naomi.
And Amos is fine with it.
Yeah.
She's
You
like a
would fuck
sister.
her if...
She's like a sister. Sure,
But-
I'd fuck her if
would
she would
fuck
let
her.
me.
Would
If she would
fuck
let
her.
me. Well, I mean, wouldn't you? Obviously. That's how we all feel about
you are fucking her, so...
Yeah, Holden, you're fucking her. So good for you, buddy. Thanks. But
Mhm.
yes, Holden comes in and gives them the parent talk. It's very strange how they set it up. It's very stoic.
The sake of the morale of the crew.
I'm Jim Holden, and I was raised by a political cult to be this, and this is what I live for. To look you dead in the eyes, you two grown men, and let you know that pretty lady over there, yeah, I'm doing her.
Yeah, my dick was just in that.
I did love their reaction.
Yeah, they've had a bet of how long it's been going on for. Because they're not stupid. They're not stupid.
And they're bros. This is what they do. Alex and Amos have a great friendship and just camaraderie. And so they are
but
aware and would make a bet like this. You never question it.
That changes a bit. Because they're back on the station. They're back in the bar. Alex is chilling out.
He's hitting on multiple women.
He seems to be getting hit on. Like, they seem to be after him because they know who he is.
Yeah, I guess so.
And, you know, they're hot shit at the moment. They're hot shit.
It's interesting because I took it as he went to the bar and he's telling tall tales about how great he is and he's getting their attraction. But
well, because like they got welcomed when they got off the Rossi.
That is true.
So that's why I thought it was a little bit of celebrity happening.
Oh, nonetheless, this married man, he's sure enjoying the pleasures of other women.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
And starts making out with one of them. Dude comes over, tries to pull the chick off. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And then Amos steps in to protect Alex.
Because the guy grabs Alex by the throat and throttles him he throttles the lady real good. Alex tries to step in and be a dude and gets punched the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
And Amos comes out of nowhere. And please, Rachel, get it right. We're Australians. Point out what Amos really did. He glassed a cunt. He fucking glassed this cunt real good. And then he stomped him like a dog. This was some romper stomper shit right here. Look, if Amos was in romper stomper, would you raise an eyebrow? He's got tattoos. He's got a pretty short haircut. This motherfucker came in and he said, yeah, I'm the sexy, muscly dude who's got big boots on and glasses, cunts. I'm just protecting you, Alex. Why are you getting all up in arms about it? Yeah, I live in the whorehouse next door. So what? That's normal. You want to come over? I've got some candles you can sniff. He didn't say that, but imagine if he did. He doesn't have candles. Imagine. Oh, wait. We've made so many weird predictions on this show. He has candles. I'm just going to say.
No.
What are you doing here? You live here or something?
Yeah, I got a flat next door.
Next door's a brothel.
Yeah.
Which then leads to them having tension. And then Amos is just like, you got a fucking problem? And Alex is like, yeah, I got a fucking problem.
Well.
You babied me. And then, or in that conversation, Amos explains that there's 3 kinds of people, according to him.
I do appreciate that Amos is still in this socially inept stage of life where to engage in a conversation and or apology with Alex, he has to deface the Martian stuff as a little troll to get rid of the moon that got blown up.
It doesn't exist anymore.
It's no longer accurate, and he has to bait Alex into a fight just so that they can have a normal conversation, because that's what Amos knows.
Escalate this in order to engage him. So
They did a really
you could have just asked, bro. You could have just asked.
they did a really spectacular job of threading through Alex and Amos's tension during the episode, because even at the in the bet, he was supposed to have punched Alex, but he feels he doesn't want to hurt Alex, so he gave him the wet willy like Alex is a child.
Yes.
Like they're children.
Yeah.
And
He can't handle the punch.
he
so
can't
not
handle
gonna
the
do
punch.
it.
And so that really set things in motion for the problem between the two of them, that Amos looks at him as somebody that needs protecting.
Mhm.
And Alex doesn't
He's-
appreciate that.
Because Amos's 3 types of people are people you follow, people you fight, people you protect.
Not just fight, bad people.
Ugh.
It's very
Sorry.
but I like that, because what we know of Amos and his life of the churn and his where he's grown up, doesn't that make sense? If you're like him and you grew up in an environment around sex workers, those are the type of people you would look at. You would look at the bad people that you have to stomp to death in the bar, the people that you follow who are wiser than you, and the people you have to protect. Because after Amos beats that guy up, the lady he looks after, he protects her, and then he's like, no, you go, and she tries to make out with him. He's like, no, you go over to Alex, like a little reward for him. Again,
Yeah.
another indignant.
Like, oh, you were his.
Yeah, another indignity against Alex is he Amos palmed off this lady to him. It's like
Yeah.
they keep giving us little things, but in a way where I didn't really notice it until we finally get to this big
Yeah.
thing here. And that's
You see the building blocks when you look back, which is a sign of very effective storytelling, because you don't see it coming. You see it in hindsight.
my overall takeaway from this is Amos, although incapable of communicating like a regular person, he does understand people's emotions on some loose level. And so this is his way of making amends. You punch me back and that'll make you feel like a man, because that's how he operates in the world. That's how Amos gets by. And you will reciprocate that, and that means you're going to be fine. And Alex, like the father he is, has to teach this very harsh lesson to Amos that is your viewpoint of people, like these 3 things, maybe it doesn't apply to me. I had to let people die so that you could live, by the way. I had to make that decision. That was a call I made. And then he walks off. And I've not really enjoyed Alex's storyline this season, because I feel like it's been a lot of quiet brooding, and I want him to be a little bit more nuanced or bounce off people. And this is good. And it really does make me look back at what he's been going through in the season with a little bit more fondness. When he spat that out, oh my God, that actor who plays Alex, he just put the right amount of mustard on it. He just had the right amount of pain and anger and annoyance. That's the thing I like. There's a little bit of annoyance of just, Amos, it's not about you, man. Like, this is what I've got going on in my life right now. And the fact I have to fucking explain this to you is a kind of a pain in my ass right now. I mean, what did you think of that? Because we haven't really loved what they've been doing with Alex, but what about this episode?
It gives a lot for the character and the actor to do, and I really enjoyed it.
They had multiple variants of tone.
Yes.
He was funny,
Very
charming.
layered and multifaceted, which is what you want from a character that you've spent this long with. Like, Alex is always there, but he's not always doing stuff. So it's nice for him to have a plot and not one that feels like it's coming out of nowhere. It's not like, oh, we need Alex to have something to do. Well, he's competent, so we don't want to make him incompetent. So Gotta be interpersonal drama. Who
Let's
can
give
he
him-
have beef with?
Or let's just give him trauma. Because the hacky writer's trick is to make a character interesting, you
if
have
they
to give
were
them trauma.
Dealing more with his probably dead wife?
Or family. And this has been that, though, of, he's got this guilt of the death of these people, and it's the trauma. But
now it's sort of that trauma and that guilt is almost sort of redirecting within him and being funneled towards this problem with Amos.
The way I see it, there's only 3 kinds of people in this world. Bad ones you follow, and ones you need to protect.
But so I'm the one you need to protect, is that right?
Yeah, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
I let a breaching pod with 25 people get blown to pieces in order to protect you. I'm a big boy, Amos. I fight my own battles.
Captain Holden, he
Don't like being captain.
he doesn't like it. Remember?
No.
He didn't want to accept the job,
No.
and yet here he
I
is.
don't want to be a leader. I'm a natural leader and I was bred for this specifically, but I don't want it.
I don't want to make the decisions that could let people die, which is a very reasonable stance. Would you?
No.
And I give Holden a lot of shit
Yeah.
as a character because he is very much white guy protagonist man that is often told to me in the show that they're better than I think they are. Naomi does this a lot in the episode. This is her role. She's the comforting girlfriend.
Mhm.
She's the reassurance. She's the shoulder where we would have died for you, Holden. Don't you worry about it. These are the type of calls you would have to make. You're the captain. You're a good leader. And I want to shrug that off because it's just a natural reflex I have, as do many people, when you're having to engage with your typical protagonist character.
Mm.
And I'm not going to lie, I actually rather enjoyed what they did with Holden in this episode. I thought they did a really...
It was neat.
It was neat, and it was the right amount as well when it came to Alex, that they fleshed him out and they let him play various amounts of tones. Holden got that as well. He was funny. He was dickish. He was a bit of a dickhead. He was a bit naive. He was guilty. He was sad. He's phoning his mum. He's leaving her a message. He's still a child in a lot of ways as well. He's a broken man, and yet he's got the semblance of competency. It's just there's so much to sink your teeth into with Holden in this episode, and yet it's not explicitly about him. I also think that's a thing that adds to my enjoyment of this type of character, is when it is not just about them. Many times over, we go into Discovery and it's like the Michael Burnham show, Michael, and everyone else kind of shrinks in the distance as we just keep zooming in on Michael. And Nathan West in Space Above and Beyond had that as well at times, but it was a little bit more clear that show didn't like Nathan West as a person.
Yeah.
And Holden, it has been like that, but to give credit to season 2, they've been making sure to really emphasize the rest of the crew. And so when we actually do get to have a little pit stop about Holden the captain, Holden the leader, Holden the man that has to make a series of decisions, I actually welcome it because, hey, this isn't what every single episode is about. This isn't about me having to look at him and go, yeah, but why would anyone actually talk to you? This is an episode where he's facing off against Fred Johnson, he's facing off against Amos, he's facing off against Naomi, and sometimes he manages to call their bluffs or have the stance on his side, and then lots of other times it doesn't go his way.
Yeah, he has a lot of the hallmarks of invincible protagonist man, but they do dirty him up.
They make him incompetent.
Yeah.
Pretty much every decision he makes gets ruined by
It has a
somebody else
cost.
or is irrelevant. He killed people for no reason in the end. Remember those doctors, those humanitarians? He blew them up, and in the end, it didn't matter. Here, we have him having to manage the blue goo.
But he made the best call that he could at the time. But he can't acknowledge that it was the right call for the time. And now that he's got other information, it doesn't look right when he looks back on it. But he still feels like he should have done better because he can see how he could have done it better now.
And he is somebody who has to backtrack. In this episode, it's about backtracking decisions made previously. We now know more about their proto-molecule, and what we know now is we need to destroy the last of it that we are aware of.
Naomi don't agree. And they all go, okay, we need to destroy it. And she's just like, no, I don't think so.
Are you really sure that there isn't more out there? So
Like,
why can't
why does it matter?
Why can't we keep the one that we have? Because there's probably more out there. And give Holden this.
Mm-hmm.
He lays out in vivid detail why that argument is stupid. Because as far as we can tell, it may actually be the last of it. And Stephen Strait, he says that line in such a way where I couldn't help but crack up because Holden's so fucking right. And he just says this line about, like, it probably is the last of it. He says it in
And
such
even if it isn't, like, here are all of the reasons why we still should.
Holden is rarely nonchalant. And so when he says a line like that, just so off the cuff, it takes me aback and I have a bit of a chuckle because he's so straight-laced and everything's so mannered and prepared with him. And even when he's stressed, he's still very stoic.
Yes, he manages himself.
He was raised to be a leader. And Naomi's here to reassure him and say, yeah, sure, you're doing the right thing. But for some reason, the blue goo is always the point of contention between the two of them. How to handle it. And last time, he did it her way. This time, is she going to return the favor?
No, she's gonna lie to him. And pretend like she sent it into the sun. But really, she just kept it.
Did you know that's what was going to happen?
Yeah, after she started helping them with disarming the bombs and adjusting the fail safes, I was just like, oh no, she's never gonna back Holden over the idea of the Belters. If it's between him and Belters as a community,
She's going to choose them.
She'll pick her community and her culture.
It's hilarious that at one stage she was opposed to even engaging with Johnson. And now she'll choose him over Holden because he is a representative of the Belters in a way. And
he's fighting for the belt, which she also is. And now she has trust in him. And that's what makes it kind of funny when Fred goes to Holden and is just like, you don't trust me. And he's like,
I've told you everything. I've been honest with you. You aren't being honest with me. Show some respect, Holden.
And it's just like, well, that has earned you Naomi's respect and trust, but not Holden's.
I thought you were going to point more towards when Johnson is saying, you live in this beautiful dream, but
yeah,
that's not the real
not
world.
The reality.
If you want what you want, you need to fight for it, and that means you have to pick a side.
Yeah,
you can't just say, "Oh,
humanity itself is not a side in this fight."
That's just not how the world works. You can't just say there is no such thing as sides. We're all one team. Sorry, but that's not how the game is played. And guess what? At the end of this episode, Naomi picks a side. And he pushes people.
Juicy character.
As much as he pulls people in and makes them a family, he also pushes them away because Naomi has routinely throughout this season been absolutely disgusted by Holden or has a disagreement with him, and she goes into the arms of her good gal pal.
Mm-hmm.
She keeps constantly choosing Johnson's sexy raccoon lady friend. She looks like a raccoon, doesn't she? She has like the eye makeup on, and she just there's something about her. But she keeps going into her arms and helping her do stuff like dance the night away or dismantle bombs. Similar type of activities. I know, Rachel, you go on girls' nights out sometimes, and it's either dance the night away or deactivate WMDs, and it's just very casual. That's the life of a teacher. On a Friday night, you either have to mark papers together or you have to get rid of some nuclear deterrence.
I wasn't expecting your help. Belters have to help each other. No one else will.
Did you have a moment where you realized, like, you didn't register that Fred was going to have the nukes?
We gave him a lot more credit than he was worthy of last episode. I didn't realize they had the ability to redirect some of them in the way that they revealed in this episode, so that's why it was more of a surprise than it not being in character for Fred.
Yeah. It was like, oh, they managed to do it. Not, oh no, why would they do that?
Oh, you know exactly why they would do that.
Yeah.
And we were going over...
It's just good to have them. We don't need, like, might not use them. It's like, fucking hell, do you really believe that?
Rachel, hasn't it worked out so well for the world that countries just have WMDs that they threaten to use but never do? Come on, it's done such wonders for the psyche of so many different groups. So lovely.
Arms races always work out well for everybody.
Oh, yes.
And you know what, like, top tier result of an arms race? Cold War.
Well, they've been in a Cold War for a while, and so someone is wanting to start it up.
Well, the belt hasn't been in that Cold War, really.
No, but it is still a
Now
part.
it's a player.
Now it's a player, and the nukes being in the possession of Fred Johnson does raise the stakes because it is almost a pitch-perfect example of the, I can't wait to see how this fucks up later on in the story.
I
The
did
Chekhov's
immediately
nukes.
think of the pun of how is this going to blow up in their faces?
Anderson Dawes has to reappear, or is he going to be like Havelock, a thing of season 1 that we only remember in a fond dream? I don't know, but Fred has these nukes. He reveals himself to be far more cunning. We already knew this, but the team of ours has been working with him for a while now, and so there's been a bit more of a cordial relationship there.
Yeah.
And now he is putting his foot down saying, I'm the boss here.
No, I am in charge. Don't think otherwise.
I am a soldier, and I need to know
he's a commander.
Oh, yeah, but in his heart, he's a soldier.
He's a soldier, but he's
military.
Yeah, but he's bringing that command and military presence.
Oh, yes.
To the OPA.
And to Holden. You fall in line in my chain of command, and Holden shrugs and says, I'm not on your team. I'm not on any team.
There's a reason that he walked away from, it was the Navy, right? Holden.
Yeah, he was a part of the Earth military in some way, and yeah, he left. He swung at one of the higher ups, and so here he is now being one to look at another commanding officer in the eye, and he's not even a part of this fight. But Fred also wants the blue goo. He has the nukes, but he wants the blue goo, and he wants to crack it because he has the evil, crazy, not lobotomized, but like, what was it, like empathy removed scientist guy? And he is monitoring him, making sure that he is keeping up to date with everything that this guy discovers about the blue goo, because if the OPA could get their hands on that amazing piece of technology, then the sky's the limit.
Yeah, but it again draws sort of an analogy back to the Epstein drive, because that technological advance changed the fate of Mars. So if the belt got something like that,
oh boy,
their position would also change.
Miller died so that he could stop this from happening. Not only just the prevention of Earth being destroyed, but he went out of his way to kill that the Dresden, because he was offering this as a possibility, and Fred and Holden were tempted. It's too much power, and it's
he voloned that shit.
Oh yes, but it's too much power, and it's a dangerous piece to play with. And so Miller went out of his way several times to stop people like Fred from getting their hands on it. But now Naomi has picked Fred as a side.
Yeah. Well,
she allows
Fred's with the belt. She's with the belt, so she's with Fred.
So Fred has the opportunity now to get his hands on the proto molecule. He also has tracked their navlog, so he has the if he wants, he could find it if he puts his mind to it.
Yeah, which is another reason why they were so like, we've got to get rid of this now. And then Naomi fucks them over.
Naomi wants to make a bridge between the crew and with Johnson. She comes up to him and says, hey, I want to tell Miller and Julie's story to the people. It's what the inners,
I want to sell it.
I want to spin it. I want to sell it. We're not going to say the whole entire thing, of course, but...
No, but a love story. Are we going to acknowledge that she was dead the entire time, the entire time that he was in love with her?
She was, from their point of view, she was dead the entire time. Yeah. We only got to see her in the goo form with Miller. They didn't see that. But
no.
You're completely right that she wants to spin this grand tale of love and how he died for not only the belt, but for the inners. And so that will boost the morale of everyone involved. Bridging the gap, mending things. And Johnson scoffs at this. Pff, he was an asshole. He was a suicidal cop and he got what he wanted. Sure, let's spin the yarn anyway, because what harm does it do?
It's not going to hurt us, and it might help us, so it's worth the risk.
And that leads us into a very small moment of the episode, but one that I also predicted is the rock hopping kid, Diogo, taking on Miller's legacy, his dying moments, and using it for his own means and projecting himself to be this grander figure than he actually is.
We got that when we saw him getting the tattoos before as well. It's just like, oh... He's earned his stripes now.
He also got laid in the episode because when Alex was in the bar, the transition of it cutting from that, from where we were before to the bar is him walking across the bar with some ladies telling Miller that he's going to make him proud. So the indication is finally he gets laid. But there's this mural to Miller. Miller has become this folk hero in a lot of ways. He's now...
I feel like he's still going to be a presence in the show for at least a little bit longer.
There's going to be some amusement had at what we knew of Miller and what they're going to create him as.
Martyr.
They're going to martyr him. And that's why Aaron Wright, when we go over to him, he is looking up Miller. Because who the hell is this loser? How did he save the day?
No reason to know him. No reason. Like, how did this guy end up in this position where the whole universe should be thanking him?
And Aaron Wright's looking at a picture of Miller with the hat on. So he didn't even get to see the cool Miller. He got to see the lame Miller. Yeah. Do you have any further thoughts on Diogo and his... rise?
I think it's trashy. I think he's a trashy person, and I think it absolutely makes sense.
Do you like the storyline?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Do you have any hopes of where we can go from here with it?
No, I just hope he continues to be a fuckwit.
Yeah, I actually do like that he isn't a noble character just because he's a young kid who's born on the wrong side of the tracks. They gave him a almost pitiable and yet understandable motivation for things with how his uncle died. But even before that, we knew him to be a little worm of a man, of a kid. And so now when we see where he is heading towards with going deeper into the OPA and lying and conniving and just using whatever means he can to elevate his own status, that's great. I don't need him to be this Robin Hood tragic figure type thing where he's maybe doing bad things, but since he's a young lad, he's actually on the right side. He's stealing from the rich to give back to the poor.
He doesn't be a wanker.
You teach high school students. Aren't they selfish?
Yes.
Pricks, wankers, dickheads.
Yeah.
They would do anything just
do
to
dumb
get
shit.
popular. Yeah.
Yeah. The process of thinking and then not doing a thing that they've thought of doing, rare. At least with a lot of the kids that I teach.
With his final word, he said to me, "You are the future, Diogo. You must continue to fight for the belt. You must live. Just live!"
The UN is gathering its intel for the Eros Station incident. They're sending a scientific expedition to Venus to go over the wreckage and see if they can extrapolate out what went wrong and maybe perhaps replicate it.
Get some goo. We want goo.
Well,
everybody still wants the goo.
Earth doesn't know about the goo. The UN doesn't know about the blue goo. They don't know about it. Mars has some understanding about it. Mao definitely knows, but from what we can tell, Chrissy doesn't know about it. Ehrenreich seems a bit blind about the blue goo as well. He knows it's like he knows it's a like a science experiment, but like how much?
Yeah, they know that there was some substance on Eros that.
They know
they don't know what, like, they don't know specifically the blue goo, but they want to find out what happened and see if they can exploit it or at least understand what threats they are facing. It's a weapon that Mars made, and then they want to see if they can get what the weapon they think it is. But we know that it's the blue goo. We know that they're actually after the blue goo.
And Christian knows that it was the Mao family that were behind this all.
She gets a badass monologue.
But we meet a new character. Somebody that is going to be the leading scientist, it seems, of this project to look into.
Avasarala's in Avasarala's pocket. Got the hots for her.
Well, is he an old flame? That's my vibe, he's an old flame, perhaps a guy that she had dated, or, God forbid, I don't think she would have had an affair with this guy.
No, but I think...
How would you when you're married to Brian George? He's so lovely. Did you see him in the last episode? How could you cheat on that guy? He's so amazing. But...
So very cute.
This lead scientist man, he comes in and you know what he did? I had a great laugh at this, and I don't know if you will have a similar reaction to me, but when he walked in, the way that the camera lingered on him, he walked in like, yeah, I've been a person in this entire series. You just haven't met me till now. He just
I've existed this whole time. It's not my fault you don't know me.
He just strolls in saying, yeah, I've got main character energy, so what?
I loved it.
I stood up in attention. I'm like, ooh, who's this guy?
Wait, have we met him?
Yeah.
I was like, has he been in one of these meetings in the background at some stage? But no.
I had to briefly stop myself from thinking he was the Secretary General of the UN because he's a white guy with white hair. It's not him.
I thought it was just me being stupid.
No, it's not him. He has a bit more of a swagger, a bit more of an ego, a bit more of an intrigue. He's interested, he's passionate, he's hungry, and for a guy who has very little to go on, he has managed to gather up so much of what has been happening.
So much momentum with him as a character.
And it just highlights further that Jules Pierre Mao's entire little conspiracy thing isn't that secretive. If this guy who barely knows a thing going on
Can
can pretty much nail it. The most he has is, we weren't involved in this, right? And Christian being like, actually, no, we weren't involved in this. It's like, oh, okay, good.
So aliens then. So aliens.
So it's aliens. And he's the first...
Like, it's a bit wacky, but aliens.
How do you feel about someone actually being invested and excited and just have some feelings towards aliens being involved in this? Because everyone else is like, oh, aliens.
Like, it's like... It's a good reminder that that is it, because pretty much everybody else is concerned with the blue goo and what it can do, not where it came from.
And the implications.
Yes, and what that means.
Dresden was, but only in the most tertiary of senses.
Yeah, it was superficial. It was just like...
very superficial. He used it as a Cold War analogy in his own way of, well, they fired the first shot, so we have to get prepared. But really, he was just wanting an advantage scientifically. While this man here, he's coming in and he's saying, aliens.
Yeah.
Aliens exist, by the way. Maybe we should care about that.
Yeah. Like, can we talk about this, please?
And it nearly destroyed the planet Earth, so we should definitely care more about it.
Yeah.
I've got to burst the bubble. Everyone is listening to the podcast, waiting for this to be brought up.
Go ahead.
That's supposed to be an Australian accent.
Yeah.
You said, oh, what accent's he doing? And I didn't even recognize that he was doing an accent. I thought he was just some Canadian guy. And then I looked up the actor. Don't worry, I didn't look into his time on The Expanse. I just looked up the actor. He is Canadian. But watching the scene again, the way he says Mars in particular is supposed to sound like old ochre Australian. But this guy...
that really long vowel.
We asked, would there be an Australian in this show? And the fact that I watched most of that dinner scene with him, not even clocking he was supposed to be Australian, has me worried.
Yeah.
Has me real worried about how much I'm going to enjoy this man's performance.
He seems to be sticking around. And like a lot of like the accent work in The Expanse has been really good. So it does throw me off a bit because this one is not up to snuff.
Okay, I'll throw my hat in the ring. I was available. Could have got me to do it. I mean, yeah, am I too young for Christian? Sure, but you put some grey in my hair. Fucking Christ, I could have done this.
Hey, she is a sexy lady.
Is he Australian in the books? Because his last name isn't Australian. But at the same time, many characters' last names in this show are not the same as the actor playing them, like Naomi, for instance. So that's a given. But I was free, as was Rachel, if you wanted to really spice it up. What, you don't want it? Whoa.
I don't want... No.
You don't want to be in a flirtatious scene with Christian?
No, I don't know. Acting, no. Shut it down. Don't make me think about it. Sounds like a fucking nightmare. No.
But hey, Rachel, let me spin it like this. Not only would you get to have flirtatious scenes with Christian, but there's thus far we have no knowledge of if this guy gets to interact with Amos. And if you had that opportunity, you would take it, you would bite it, you would go down on the ship.
No,
with
I
that.
wouldn't.
She would.
No, I wouldn't, because no.
Is this going to be...
I would just be a hot mess.
Okay.
I'm embarrassed enough to think...
You're embarrassed enough to think about yourself on the set doing all of the stuff?
I'm embarrassed enough to think about the actor of Amos listening to what I say about Amos.
Yeah, Rachel, don't objectify him. He's not a piece of meat. He's a living, breathing man with big muscles.
Let alone the idea of meeting him.
Meeting. Yeah, I guess gotta say that this will be a problem going forward, that this guy's doing a fake Australian accent.
Yeah, hopefully it gets better.
It's real tough for me to watch a show where they're supposed to sound like me.
Yeah.
And they have not even come close.
No.
And this series is very proud of itself when it does things. You can tell that there's a real sense of accomplishment to the people they cast, the way that they shoot scenes, and how it all comes together. So it's also frustrating because the actress who plays Draper, who plays Bobby, she's from New Zealand, and she also has some like Aboriginal in her lineage, but it's like, okay, you can get someone close to where we are. Why couldn't you do it again?
It's not like there aren't many Australian actors trying to
get jobs and
crack it into American TV.
Oh, yeah. What we've learned over the last couple of decades is there's a shortage of Australian male actors. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Wouldn't it have been bold if they got Paul Hogan to do this role? Christian.
No, don't do that.
Rachel, please, I've got a good one. Christian, that's not blue goo. Now this is blue goo, and he throws a jellyfish on the table. Listen here, you Drongo. Oh man, he does like the little finger trick from Crocodile Dundee to put Aaron Wright to sleep. Legitimately, how good would Paul Hogan be in this role? Amazing. Him as a scientist? Yeah, I'm a scientist. You gonna worry about that?
I asked you to that meeting to hear your opinion. You barely said a word.
Yeah, there's a few things I gotta warn you about. Firstly, you're gonna get wet.
Our favorite character goes boss bitch mode.
She goes hard.
She's no longer playing
herself.
Oh, I'm actually on your side, Aaron Wright, and I'm going to pretend like I hate these people.
You almost destroyed the Earth. Fuck you and fuck Mal.
Well, in her defense, she does not explicitly say Aaron Wright. She roundabout way says it. So she is still having a little bit of that fun, but yes, that scene where she strolls into Aaron Wright's office and plays super coy. She has these grins, these little head nods, these glances over as Aaron Wright is just giving her more rope, more rope, and just when she walks in there and she is saying, okay, now we need to find that Mao guy because he's clearly behind this. Have you heard from him by any chance? And Aaron Wright does his usual weasel spiel of, you really think it's the evil corporate tycoon that's treated me like shit? Why would he want to destroy the Earth? Why would he want to do that? He's a noble man with good intentions and happy feelings all the time. He leaves me on red. He just sends me to the voice messages. Yet I'm going to defend him. And Christian just lays it out all nice and neat for him. Look, he may not have intentionally tried to destroy the Earth, but he's still got to be held accountable, and so that we can put measures in so that this won't happen again. Isn't that completely fair, Aaron Wright? Oh, well, yes, Christian, of course. I guess I'll
argue that, I guess.
Well, he seems to have gone missing, but I can probably get to him via his family that he cares so much about, like this beautiful daughter that he loves almost as much as Julie. And this was a really peculiar thing that Aaron Wright did. I love Sean Doyle as a performer. He has these really magnetic, cold eyes, but when he looked directly at the camera and said, she will be a character later, kind of took me out of it, you know?
Yeah, it felt like, I've walked into a wall there.
And it was, look, a piece of weird direction on top of that was when it cut back to Christian, she was reading Caliban's War, the second book of the Expanse series, and she was tapping at which page this character comes in during that.
Yeah,
and I just
interesting choice.
It was such an interesting choice. I don't know if it really worked out in their favor here.
No, I feel like they could have gone more subtle.
And yet, it was better done than anything the Martian Marines had in the episode. Got you good, didn't I? So, Christian says the best speech she's given in the show.
But she tops herself each time, really.
This is her being a full villain mode, but obviously on the side of good. But to see her just say, I will burn them to the ground. We will hunt them down and nail them. Make sure that not one of them escapes because these motherfuckers nearly destroyed the earth.
I will Rasputin the shit out of this.
I am the person who saved motherfucking Earth, bitch. I deserve to do this. And by the time they try and pull me out of office, it will be too late, because I have ruined them, and I've put salt on the earth behind me as I walk out, because fuck the mouse. And I also don't appreciate it when people in our job have to take bribes from corporate tycoons because they're starving. I'm not looking for that, by the way.
No, you can't buy me off. You can't kick me out before I do damage. So get this shit done.
It's
fucking great.
There's no way to say that this episode is actually bad when it has that scene in it.
Yeah.
I have problems with the episode, but it
really tips the scale. Like, the Martian stuff is so shit, but everything else is handled pretty well, except for the accent. So,
and then Christian, the moment here is tipping the scales so much in the positive direction it breaks.
I feel like overall our discussion has leaned towards the positive. So I don't think it will surprise people when I give this a yum yum.
Yum yum.
It's fighting itself with the great things that this series does and the worst things, because the Martian Marine stuff is inexcusably bad. I loathe it, and it makes me truly annoyed that I loathe it. Because all of this other stuff, as you said, as you said, all of this other stuff is handled pretty well, if not great. And then the Christian stuff is top tier television, masterclass television. And it's not just because we find her to be an enjoyable character, but the way that they've made this story unfold in front of us during the season has been meticulous. So this is a yum yum without a doubt.
Yum yum.
That is all we have to say about Paradigm Shift. Now, next episode is the 7th episode, so luckily it's called The Seventh Man. And we don't know what will be happening in this episode. Have no clue, or maybe we do. Do you have any ideas in your brain right now? Any predictions, anything you're wanting in the next episode? Or things that have happened in this one that could blossom into something later down the road?
I don't think we're going to see the scientist again, but we're going to hear about him.
The Australian scientist?
Yes.
Okay, but we have a few scientists on this show now.
Yeah, yes. The main one that we were just talking about. Sorry.
That's okay. So you don't think we'll see him in the next episode?
No, I don't think we're going to see him, but we're going to hear about him. I hope to see Avasarala's bodyguard again. I'm hoping that they'll still continue the tension between Alex and Amos. Because that wasn't like... That doesn't go away. Like, they had their bringing it out in the open moment.
Alex still has baggage.
But, yeah, Alex still hasn't forgiven Amos, and Amos isn't going to change his mind. So they're at this sort of impasse, and I hope that they continue to deal with that in an interesting way. I think that Naomi is going to betray Holden's trust in another way. I don't know how, but I just feel like they're going to keep on going down that road.
Okay, so I would love it if Holden's mother appeared in the next episode. He phoned her, but we haven't seen her in a while, so I would like it so much because that character is fascinating. She opens up an avenue of discussion for us when it comes to Jimmy Holden himself, because everything about the weird family political cult thing is honestly the glue that holds Holden together for me as a really interesting character rather than just a competent one. I think that we're going to have to go way, 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 way more into Draper. We had a cliffhanger ending with her. She's going to have survived somehow. How is she going to make it out? Who attacked the Martian Marines on that Ganymede station, on that Ganymede base? How's she going to go against these weird aliens or these blue goo guys? It's all going to be a big Draper episode. And the other thing that I think could happen is Fred Johnson stumbles across the blue goo. Like, that could be the ending of the episode of, like, we've got it. And then the music swells and he phones up Anderson Dawes to confirm that they have a powerful piece now, or something along those lines.
I just had an idea that I find nearly stupid and fun, which is, what if the blue goo is the blue alien's jizz? And that's why it tries to make life.
Well, isn't that basically the plot of Prometheus? Where they've created this weird bio-goo thing that they have to create new life, and then they want to destroy us because we were a failure. If this is going to be the Prometheus plot, I'm going to be real fucking furious.
I'll be real pissed, but just the idea of them being like, fucking Kevin...
He did it again.
His wank sock in a wormhole, and it's gotten everywhere.
Who do you think the seventh man is? That's the title. Do you think there's an actual seventh man, or do you think it's a metaphorical thing, some piece of throwback to a text that I'm not familiar with?
I think it is an allusion to something, but the idea that popped into my head was Holden's seventh daddy.
Oh, that would be neat. I was thinking that it could be Havelock has returned because he's such a lucky guy. Did you not see that he lived from being impaled against a wall and crucified for a day and then he fell into the trash? He is so lucky, like the number 7 or lucky number 11, remember that movie, to have lived from that it would be very good if he returned in this next episode and said, "Where's my buddy Miller? What's that? He died. I guess I'll take his place." Rachel is throwing her hands up in the air. She's shaking her head.
Do the Gaunt Belter thing. I'm done.
Rachel, do not be done yet, because you need to remind us all where the podcast can be found and how people can talk to us.
The podcast can be found at yumyumpod@gmail.com. If you want to email us, we can be found on the various social medias under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. If you want to check out more of our content, then go to our Patreon, which is also under yumyumpod.
That's where these episodes get released first. We release these for our patrons on Patreon, and so you get a bunch of benefits like hearing next week's episode right now instead of having to wait the week, or talk to us and have a fun time on our group Discord channel where we talk about The Expanse, and then we have many other channels on there as well where we talk about Babylon 5, Star Trek, and whatever else we're watching or playing or doing, and we just have a grand old time. If you have not rated and reviewed the podcast, real shame. Real shame. It's
a real shame, just like the fact that the Gaunt Belter wasn't in this episode.
See you then. Well, voila.